see, I believe, well, it's taking just a little bit longer. Okay, well, just so you guys know, I named this Gal Pal Posse Decode Current Reveal Flow. Just so and it looks like we're live according to Zoom.
Yay.
So, yay. My name is Sheila Corona. This is Conscious Conversation Central. I am joined by BZ Rieger from the Quantum Playground and my housemate, co-host, best friend, Lisa Flamino Rush, and my gal, also known as my Gal Pal Posse, in the house.
Ladies.
So, do we know anything more than we did a little earlier? Because I've learned a few things, but I've also I don't know, there's still that general feel of, okay, so now what? um so, but BZ, you were the part of the reason we are not we didn't go live exactly when we thought we might was because there was a few things we were checking on. So was there something you wanted to start out with for us?
Well, mostly I would start out with where you said, so what now, is just to kind of replay with a few things we've already played with. And one is to trust your instincts, trust your knowing. And if you haven't already been using that, then hone that, and feel into it. And then blend that with your knowing that you already have and the logistics of something. So we talked about does it make, and so we flip it around and ask yourself a question. Sheila talks about that a lot. Okay, so does it make sense? Would it make sense for this person who he's 74 years old and he had a successful life, he's very wealthy, a big family, loves what he does, loves golfing, which is what he was spending a lot of his time doing some other deals, right? To go and first of all be president just for what? I mean, the guy's got an ego. He doesn't need all the shit in the White House to take that. He can have an ego everyplace else. So to even come into the thing, number one, and from the very first night, we talked about this a long time ago in a thing, the very first, when he was election night in 16, and he was late getting to the stage. And one of the very first things out of his mouth when he got there, and he looked at the sea of faces, because I watched it live, which surprised the hell out of me. But anyways, I waited up to watch it live, which really surprised the hell out of me. And he took a moment and he collected himself because he was trying to catch his breath. And he said, it's complicated. I just had to finish up with a break. I have 200 generals behind me. That was one of the, if you go, and it's on the IV, but you go at the beginning of that speech, that's the moment. And you can see this. And if you listen, watch, and connect with something where you really connect with it, where you're feeling it, you can see that there's much more being divulged and given voice to than just, if you did a transcription of the words that he says. But the 200 generals is alluding to this line of them that come through with Q, where there have been for decades and decades and decades, that they keep rolling them over. And so right from the very beginning, he was telling everybody in code, unless you knew about it, right from the very moment he stepped on the podium. Okay. So I'll go back to the question. So would it make sense to even get in that whole rig, do this whole thing, go through the 4 years that he's gone through, right? And the latest attempt was on Melania, and apparently it was almost perfectly executed because she almost was off. And it was on. It was on. I don't know whether it was a nail polish bottle top or something, but in her, they got to it in the White House, and it was only because, which is why in his speech today, he makes a really big point of highlighting the Secret Service. We can never repay you. And yes, that's in general for the last 4 years, but in specificity and particularity, it's referring to 2 weekends ago when something that one of the Secret Service people picked up and they knew it, and he got it on him and was treated and released because it was just a brush up when she was about to sit down and do her thing. So that's how close it was. So anyway, so again, if you do these different, some of the things we're going to look at, tonight is my brain is very right-sided and very left-sided and incredibly creative and out there woo, and also prove it. Very, very New Yorker, very skeptical, very suspicious on that kind of thing. And let me see where the logistics, show me the dots. So anyways, it's interesting if you see all those kinds of things and what are you talking about? So where now, I would say, again, you're the expert for you. Only you can decide, do you think that there's something more? Do you feel it? And maybe not think it, but do you feel it? And what are you looking for? So that's why I was playing with that question. He cannot afford to just, get on a plane, go yeehaw in the big blue beast one last time, and go. He can't do it because just in the most secure house in the world, right? Maybe on many worlds. It was that close to thwarting, not to mention all the other ones, but the other ones they knew in advance and they could look for it. This one was, they knew right then when the bottle got knocked out. Right.
Right. I hadn't heard that information. This is the first I'm hearing of that situation taking place. But as for that question, I had to ask myself that question. Like I said, I thought it was a joke when he was actually running, and I couldn't imagine why he would even waste his time or anything like that. And then to also learn that in all of this time he's never taken a salary, that he's donated it every time it's been issued. He donates it. I know there's a lot of I've heard all the things. Yeah, well, that's because he's making so much money and he's set himself up to make money for the. And I've heard all of those arguments, and I've also been made aware that there's a lot of discounts that he gave the government in order to use his facilities. He didn't charge his full prices to the government, which is also different than, my understanding is different. So when one really wants to know, and one asks not just oneself, but then asks for that information to be shown, because it is there if a person really wants. But I asked myself all those same questions. And because for the first time in my own life, I've really paid attention to the words coming out of someone's mouth rather than what has been said in those little sound bites, because a soundbite can paint anyone in any sort of way. And it applies across all the boards. And that's been done a lot to him, partially because he is very plain spoken. He's not a polished politician. There is quite a difference. I was shown that so very clearly over the whole coronavirus thing, because we would have Trump speak, and then following we would have Pence. And I could feel the slick car sales polish all over the politician.
Mormonish is not polished, right?
Well, it's very different.
Yes.
And
Not genuine is the way I would describe it.
no, well, exactly. Well, that's my, I don't know, that's my rendition of polished, I guess. I just feel, it feels very slimy whenever I feel into that kind of thing. And I don't know. Like I said, for me, there's something to a person just being themselves at every moment. Dun, 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 partially because that's the way I behave. So I get it. I get that's my druthers for a whole lot of reasons. But so yeah, I in feeling into all of that, I did ask myself those questions, because in every president I've ever heard tell, they enter office at one net worth, and by the time they leave, their net worth is quite a bit more, quite a bit. I mean, as
Yes, and
in
his
a
has
lot.
gone the other way. In fact, in order to sign the agreements that he did and change over all of his businesses, you know, he is reined in his businesses. But forget the money.
No, I
That's
realize
not
that, but
important. I'm
I
talking about his
realize
life.
you're right. Forget that. You are right. But when asking
life.
that question,
Right.
because he is a businessman, well, so obviously money wasn't the reason. That's what I'm saying. There's a whole lot of to consider when asking that question. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of, and the other thing too is when you play and you either find the arguments that you're talking about, or you come up with those yourself, or you know, look at other people bringing those arguments forward. Great, then play with that. And what's the flip side? Well, you know, look at that. Well, you could say that about he's doing this and that, but look at the if you look at the amount of money, if you look at the value, the real estate value of the houses that Biden has, right? Where do you come up with that? And some
I'm
of the
sorry, I
most
wasn't.
recent, some of the
I'm
most
sorry, I
recent,
wasn't paying attention. Would you repeat that, BZ? I was looking at the comments.
I said, if you're
apologize.
looking, if you're going to use the same argument for the money and this and that and the other thing going in, okay, well, look at Biden. And if you look at the 4 large houses that he has, in fact, some of them are new. And if you look at what the timing of when they came into his possession, in as it relates to the transcripts referring to the big guy and his cut, you can see that those properties match up with that.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
And
just
it'll become very clear to everybody else too when it gets revealed exactly what foreign aid is, and exactly how all that works, and exactly how all the politicians' charities work, and so on and so on and so forth. So, but anyways, what I wanted to start with, you said, well, where from now? I said, that's the place you start. Is you're the expert for you, and how do you feel into it, and do you think that does it make sense in how you look at things that we now have 35,000 fully armed troops, right? Now, if these are in place because they're put there to protect the inauguration, right? Which is what is the cover. But if that's the cover, then wouldn't they have, and they're worried about the National Guard, the whole elect Biden, Biden-elect presidency, wouldn't they have vetted the damn people beforehand? They didn't just get to be the National Guard yesterday when they flew in on the transports. So
well,
you've got some
my understanding they're vetting them. I don't know that
yeah, they've already that's a whole big thing that they're uppering now, because you can't, it's unconstitutional. It doesn't matter what part of the Constitution, where you start all the way through. So a part of this is to show Are you paying attention yet? Do you, even if you never heard about the Constitution, you don't know if it makes any sense or who cares, but you realize that if this can happen, they're taking away everybody's rights wholesale all over the place. Are you listening yet? Because this is not a linear thing. So this is in the bigger picture, and it's not the right word, but I'm going to use it because it's a good linear placeholder. It's a spiritual realm thing, right? It's all of that. So one must stand up for oneself. One must use their free will to say, no, right?
Yeah.
I am the only one over me. And since I go right up to source, that's it. I
Yeah.
don't, right? And so this is why this is why it seems like, okay, we're doing it. And, I get it. There are moments someday I'm like, okay, right, here we go. Because this is to dig all this out, because it has to get to be so stupendously ridiculous. Are you effing kidding me? Are you seriously saying these things so that not that you would pay attention now to wake up to it, but that it can be wholesale paid attention.
Well, no, that is that very real thing. That's kind of where I'll be honest with you. In these moments of now, with um everything that is going on, I'm kind of glad that I'm not having to go out and be around folks who are not consciously paying attention, because I don't really, it does, because it's very disconcerting on some levels, right? The information that you shared in regards to what happened to those ladies that were my age on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
I never in my lifetime thought that I would ever hear of something like that taking place in the United States of America.
Right.
I just really, and the fact, and quite frankly, the fact that, because it would appear, at least on some levels, people are okay with this. And
Well, but yes, and that's part of the brainwashing. It's just amazing. Someone asked me the other day, how are you doing? I said, I'm astonished that my fellow Americans care nothing about their rights.
well, listen, I get it, because most people think they're free too. So, I, even when you point out the fact that, oh, I'm sorry, you know, that thing you're complaining about having to go to every day, that job, that idea that hopefully you're going to save up and, oh, I don't know, maybe if you live long enough, someday you're going to get to retire and do the things you have always wanted to do. All of that kind of stuff. I'm just astonished. I've never, why is this okay with everybody? Why is working and hoping you make it okay with anybody in any way, shape, or form? Why are any of what is going on right now okay? Why is it okay that anybody is censored on Twitter? People should be able to say whatever the hell they want to say.
Yeah, you can just take them off your feed or block them.
Listen,
or don't be on Twitter.
Listen, I have had this happen in real life, okay? People arguing and saying, I wish you were dead. And then the police be called because of that statement. The police are in the presence of these two beings. And the one being says again, well, I do wish you were dead. And the other being said, see, he admits it. And the police say, Well, yeah, but he hasn't done anything about it. So you can say, like I said, just because, listen, this goes under the same category, in my view, of governors creating laws outside of the actual process. You can say anything. It doesn't mean it's real. That's right. This is across the board.
Well, and it goes back again to the, you're the expert for you. So are you
Right.
going to pay attention for you? Lisa has this saying that she always says, well, if you're not minding the ship, somebody damn well else is steering it for you.
All too happy to direct that for you.
And that's why we're here right now.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, because enough of us did wake up, and enough of us did say no freaking way, and enough of us, and I mean not in a numerical way, thank God we didn't have to wait for that, but in the strength of the knowing, and the vibrational frequency was what we needed to reach. And so that's luckily, very luckily, a much smaller numerical number, because the gravitas of the energetic vibration is such that it changes the trajectory.
Well, yeah, it's that amplitude thing again, too. Well, I want to give a shout out to a couple of you guys, and welcome you and thanks for joining us. We have Q Team in the house. Jennifer Brown has joined us. My sister Teresa is in the house. Dottie Aldridge,
Yeah.
Lucas Schick, Karen Reeves. I already said Jennifer Brown, I think I did. Lori, Make Earth Love Again, is out there. Stacy Watchall. I'm so glad you guys could all join us. C. Rich, I like what you said here. Loyalty to Constitution, yes. Loyalty to Biden, no. Something is amuck with this vetting thing. Well, yeah, I think that's, yeah. Yeah, well, it kind of smacks of
But it's
fear.
also a tip off. So again, going back to what are you watching? Is it a play? Is it theatrics? Who's what? Who's that? And um, and go and look at there's one I'm kind of falling behind on all the things I have to put up there, but the newest DEO actually that I'd highlighted before, and now there's a new one that just came out earlier today, but it's talking about if you the FEMA and the emergency management and all those kinds of things, and the continuity of the command and the moving of that. And so what Trump did was he turned that all over to his trusted FEMA guy, right? Who you're not going to look at too closely to, if Biden's mixing things around right away, right?
Right.
And so he said, well, yeah, great, because oh my gosh, there was this unrest, and we want to make sure that it was secure and everything. And of course the Biden team loves it, because then if they can only have it to ticketed guests, right, and just have flags for the rest of them, then you don't notice that. You'll think you wouldn't notice because there's nobody showing up. So how did someone get 80% of the vote and there's 3 chairs that are being sat, right? So that's up. And then they were thinking, well, great, all this, the National Guard, and somewhere along the line the light bulb went on to like, okay, hang on, the military likes him. Okay, what are we going to do now, right? And so now so what I'm saying is that it's the 11th hour, all of a sudden, this vetting thing on the thing. First of all, again, it's another way to highlight the unconstitutionality of all this kind of stuff. And if most of your military is pro-Trump, well, okay, now you're getting rid of most of your military, but if we want to go invade all these other places, because that's how you make their money, is the war game, right? And you kill off a lot of useless eaters and all those kinds of things. So that's what I'm talking about. If you look at the nuance of the narratives, they're like jumping and skipping and forgetting what narrative they like because they're for, because that gives us all of our dirty stuff. But now they're nervous, and they, in order to get the prize, in order to carry through with taking the White House, because he's installed, right? I mean, how long can you look at news clips, how many years back, where the Democrats were all telling you, Pelosi leading the charge, they were going to install the no president. When have you ever heard that before? Right? So then we have clips. So I put up the clip of the, and it's already been on the IV for a while. It's a clip of General Walker, who is the general of the National Guard in the deployment in DC currently, up to 35,000. On Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos yesterday on Martin Luther King birthday. And so what George wanted to get across is, you know, that do they have everything they need? Because, you know, since the violence was worse than 9/11, which is insulting on so many levels. And so he says yes, and he's got a mask. So you and I but we all talked about this before on camera. Well, one of the things that the masks have been brought up, because then you can hide Antifa and all that kind of stuff with their masks. It's harder for facial recognition and all that kind of stuff. But that ruse, that good thing, works both ways. So here you have a general. He didn't have to be on a mask because they're on television sets. So they're social distancing because George is in New York and the general is in DC. So it's a little bit more than 6 feet. Plus you got the glass lens and everything in between you. So that ought to give you some droplets from flying and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Plus he's also outdoors, and he's got the banner. It's just like one of those things you can order on any business thing where, you know, you just make a banner, you take a photograph, and it's this roll out thing, and they set it up. It says GMA, and that's the backdrop, right? So that's where he's outside sitting there. So he didn't have to wear a mask. And yes, all the other troops are wearing masks and all that kind of stuff as they're, you know, going around and getting ready. He still didn't. He's on a, you know, thing, and he's trying to make it clear to quell the things. But isn't it perfect that he wears a mask so it's a little harder to see his face, but more important, a little harder to hear him, although he actually speaks very clear. Then you break down the video and you watch it slowly and listen to what he says, and you realize that except for the word, which some says, I know what I heard clearly because I listened to it in software and looked at the waves, right, of the thing, that it said that he said to, but you could say of. Okay, so even so that's a great way if you have a mask, because that gives you a little, well, no, I said of, right? So it gives you a little cover there. So what I'm saying is all of these dots, these just happen to have happened, are way too pat, way too convenient to line up all in the way. And he also starts with this pattern instead of answering the question right away, because if he'd started with that right away, it would have been much more noticeable. He leads into, because he just happens to be a Black general, giving thanks that it's Martin Luther King's birthday, so on and so forth, so he's doing the reverse in military psyop to George, and he's lulling his audience or his interviewer into just the rhythm of the thing, and then he can say how proud he is of all of the National Guard from every 50 states. Well, that's telling you too, yes, it's a piece of information, it's a piece of data, but it's also telling you that every state is going to have a hand in reclaiming their country. And there's a reason why they didn't have to have National Guard from every single state. It's not like they have a dearth of National Guard and they had to pull every last National Guard.
No, that's true.
Right?
That's a very good thank you for that, BZ. That's actually quite a puzzle piece right there. Thank you for that. I did not catch that, but that is very interesting.
Which is why when I, you know, listen back and forth to get the transcript correct, and someone had said, well, you know, you have a typo there because I said to of, and the words are together, because if you listen to it, he intentionally, if you listen to the inflection of the thing, you can hear the two, and then he hangs something over, so that there's that plausible deniability. And another way you can say that is prior to that, at the beginning of that section where the sentence is that we're talking about, that's drawing so much attention. Like, and I use the analogy like a horse. If you're coming on a jumper, coming up to a fence, a horse will change its stride so that it has got the correct striding coming up to the fence to take off perfectly. So if
So,
you
and tell me again now, what is the sentence that he was? What is that about?
I'm going to look it up, right?
Because I'm sure there will be someone, and I think I know, but so Teresa said, Joe's in office to show the rest of the souls the truth. Remember, we can't tell them. This
Right.
is, I feel, part of the plan. I do feel,
Yes.
I feel like everyone will wake eventually. Yes, I think you may be right there, Teresa. The 2x4 has officially been pulled back.
Okay, so yeah, but we're early yet, you know, we're nowhere near the end of first term and what's going on. So General William Walker's direct quote when I watched the video was, "How proud I am of the almost 25,000," and they've gotten to 35,000 since then. The almost 25,000 National Guardsmen who have come in from all 50 states and territories to help support the Secret Service and the police departments with a peaceful transition to military power. So at the beginning of that sentence, if you listen, go back to the video, which is, you know, in that post, right before he starts the part about to help the Secret Service is where I'm giving you the metaphor of bringing a horse in to line up properly for a jump, and they alter their stride. He's been clear. In fact, he's speaking is very clear until he gets to this, and he, you know, I didn't want to spend hours to, I, you know, probably could have parsed out the what's the right word, the what he was trying to say. He rearranges. It's for the most part unintelligible, but he rearranges the order of what he's going to say. And you can, that makes sense once you listen to what he's saying. So he has a garbled, and then he says that line that I just read to you. And then it's a little bit when he's masking the thing. So it could be nothing. Okay, great. So it could be of instead of to. Then my next brain says, okay, could be. And everybody's the expert for themselves. I know what my ears heard, right? And looking at it and dissecting it and actually pulling it into a program where I could look at the stuff, right? But then I asked myself, well, okay, so that's plausible. It's up. So when have you listened to generals talking about the whole idea of a peaceful transfer of the military? We're not military juntas in our government. It's a civilian government. Do we talk about this on Good Morning America every 4 years when we have the transfer of power? Is this the thing that leads the story? Logic,
No, that's why I said
context.
that was very surprising to me that, and I went back and watched it again because I wanted to see. Too bad they didn't show Stephanopoulos' face. I was trying to look for a reaction because he wasn't wearing a mask, but they didn't show his face.
No.
Yeah, what you need is maybe someone will leak the raw feed in the you know, in the booth. You've got, he's on camera, and they put the two together and they're cutting. But
Right.
again, so these are the ways to go back to your very first question, Sheila. Well, you know, so what now? And so there's too many things, and you don't need all the other things because Trump's not going to let his son get sliced and diced, and that would be at the end of them plan to off him and all the things they would do to him prior to. Think of everything you've seen or heard about that has to do with any kind of rape or molestation or trafficking or satanic rituals or anything else. All of those will be done to all members, all the kids, those little grandkids, Ivanka's kids. And so those are the stakes just for him personally. And he knows for anybody who's works for them, and he knows anybody that has been verbal. So it's a pretty good thing. So if that isn't enough, I don't know, but then you have all of the other dots, right? And more dots are coming out all the time. So what do you want me to play that video clip?
Uh,
The
sure.
water.
Sure. Let me check in on what everybody's saying over here. Let me see while you're doing that. Teresa said it's not about our gratification, it's about our consciousness. You're smack on about that. Really. Deneen said, remember Q's question, what makes a good movie?
Well, and also to actually both of those points combine. So again, something to play with and ask yourself, if how do you not only clean and wake up and unwind and unbind everything within you in the illusion, and how do you get everybody else to wake up to what's going on too, right? It has to be experiential.
Yes, exactly. Experiential. And so again, I'm sorry, I always hear my question to Danny, how do you tell a planet full of people they've been lied to about everything they ever thought was true, everything they've ever been taught has some sort of lie or twist to it. It's all been tainted. And but I have to tell you, I love this right here. I got to share it with you guys. So C. Rich said, fence by Trump is bad. Fences in Washington, D.C. went up so fast, if you blinked, you would miss it. So now fences do work. See, this is it. We can't tell people it has to get, because, that's what it is until enough people see it, right? And I think that's part of that. So I thought that was great, though. Great point there, C. Rich.
Yeah, and stay with the fence for a minute, right? So they went up so fast, they, whatever. But when they built the mechanism of a fence, because it's a big fence and is now it's contiguous, and so when you do the locking together, right? Eventually you got to get this shit down, right? Well, the locking together mechanisms are on the outside of the fence, not the inside of the fence that you control, where it would be safe for you to then decide to take the fence down. If the fence is protecting those people within the complex of the Capitol building, which is the SCOTUS and all those things, they're all in a line together, right? So if I'm inside, I'm in those buildings and I'm going, I'm safe. I got, because, there's those badass MAGA freaks out there, right? So I'm safe because I'm inside the fence, right? Now, when I'm deciding that I no longer need these fences, then I can take down the fence. Remember, I'm safe. I'm inside the fence.
Right.
So I go and I to the fastenings and I can take, because it's on my side. Because if it was on the outside where it's not safe, then the not safe people could take the fence down. Where are the fasteners on the fence? They're on the outside of the fence, where the not safe people
Didn't look at that, but that's a very good observation, BZ. I did not even look at that.
Okay, well, here I'm going to go one step further, right?
Yeah,
and
because
then they made the,
you had a video you were going to play too. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
and then they had the footage of them putting the razor whip. They said it as barbed wire, and I'm thinking that's not barbed wire. If you still the video, you can see it's actual razor looking things, and that's why they call it razor wire, because it's like really big ass shaving razor things on the wire. Okay, same thing. When you're inside the buildings, which is what we're protecting, so the people who want to be safe are inside the perimeter of the fence by the buildings, because the bad, unsafe stuff is outside, right? So when you do that and you put up your razor wire, you put your razor wire so it rolls on the outside of the fence. So when the not safe people want to come in, they get sliced to ribbons, scaling the fence to come over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, except that, just like the take it apart mechanisms are on the outside, the razor wire is on the inside of the fence, so that if you were inside, supposedly being safe and wanted to get out. Oops, you can't go that way because you'll be sliced and diced by razor wire.
So I didn't realize they've got razor wire at the top of that. Wow. Okay, that's very interesting too. Okay.
But nothing's happening, and Josie Joe's gonna get sworn in tomorrow, and it's just fine and kind, and we're all going, we're all in big trouble. Yep, you bet. So those are just a few things, starting with the general who says this thing. So everybody can think about all day long about the to or the of, great. But you didn't answer the bigger question is, why is he talking about that at all? It's not
Well,
like we're in Nicaragua or some of these other places where they routinely have the government is a military government, and it keeps switching over. And then you have some more civilian attaches and stuff. This is the United States that until maybe, tomorrow, this has not been the case.
right.
So the logistics don't hold up. The logic doesn't hold up. The energetic vibration. See, that's the thing. It doesn't matter what realm you're playing on or what dot frame, what dimensionality, multidimensionality, or linear that your dot is playing on. They
Right.
don't work together because they don't add up, because you can't keep switching sides in the same dot.
Well, I know I know it feels. Say what now?
You want to play with some more dots?
Well, I just know it doesn't it all just feels very interesting, and I don't know. I really so I want to say too though that there's folks are asking about that video is on the IUV, and so
It's on the IV, but since things keep going on the IV at an alarming rate, you're gonna have to look down a little to find it. You'll see the general with a mask on. He's got his fatigue on and a mask, and it says you've got the GMA behind it. The photograph is clear as could be.
yeah.
And it
Yeah.
says General Walker of the National Guard.
Yeah. So just go to i-uv.com and look for the thing with General Walker. And
I know that when I just went to look for it, you have to go to the front page of the blog, go to the bottom of the page, and hit the number to go to the next page because it's not on the front page.
Is it on the second page now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now it's on the second page. But give me an hour.
Yeah, the events are moving very quickly.
Well, I have to tell you that I thought, listen, it really does feel correct to me that nothing happens without consent, and informing has always been done on some level and some layer.
Yes.
And so I actually, even though I was sort of surprised, I was actually not surprised either, because I've seen everything I've seen over the last 3 years. Because it's just like, doing things and just boldly doing it, it's not right on any level. It's actually against all of their own rules, and yet they're doing it anyway, pushing through like, nope, nothing to see here, you didn't see that, just move along now. And a lot of people, that's have experienced that on a lot of different levels. So I don't know, until I don't know what it'll take, but obviously it's more of what we're seeing.
I think today that it's because I judge it from just around here. It's a universe of not very awake people, or certain people who don't notice, in the way that, certainly not the way that I notice. They may notice some things, right? But I had a bunch of people come to me today and go, "Beezy, what the hell is going on?" And I said, "It's great, isn't it?" And they're like, "Well, I know think that it is, and I get why you do, sort of, because we've had some conversations, but what's going on? So I, said, well, take this and take that and take that. And they're like, you know, so this is the first time that it's been, and there's where it's the blend between it's not just the linear. They may absolutely wouldn't describe it that way, but the energetics have clicked up again. And you no longer can thwart your light bulb moments. You no longer can thwart your spidey senses showing you something right in front of you, even if you don't know what the hell a spidey sense is, right? At all. And I saw that in evidence with all the people today. Here, just right here.
Huh. Well, see, so that's interesting. That's why I wanted to check in over here. Tanine said there's a saying going around that seems so accurate. It's a lot easier to con people than it is to convince them that they've been conned. Well, that's actually a famous saying by a Nazi.
Yeah.
Just so you know, and it's actually a very real thing. It's actually right.
Because you have the person's brain and the ego mind fighting against you the whole time. Just like you say, well, I can't be responsible for myself because I wouldn't choose this or the other thing. So the same thing, I couldn't be conned. I'm too smart for that, right? Yeah, you were. And how fast did you slap the diaper on your face? And you were okay with it.
Yeah, well, so Susan said fence as in prisoner rounding up people. I think your question there is what we were discussing was they're calling it a green zone around DC, I think.
Well, the National Guard is calling it a red and green zone.
Oh, okay. Red and green zone.
So yes, but where have you heard that before?
I know, right? Well, listen, there's an awful lot about what's going on right now that has been done before. I did not know this until just before our thing here, but I was watching Steve Bannon's War Room, and Raheem, because he was sharing that, they're using, I've shared because I heard about this now. I thought it was very interesting to me that they're using flags, which is something that Laura Walker was talking about. Well, interestingly, what they're doing has been done before. And it was during, if I'm not mistaken, the Third Reich. It was, they actually even showed on Bannon's War Room old black and white photos where they were actually using beams of light and flags at this Nazi gathering thing. And I thought, okay, that's
signal, symbolism, and metaphor.
It's very interesting to me, and that's that's news to me. I hadn't heard any of that, and I'm certain that it could be researched and looked at, but I find that very interesting, and in another way, very on a whole lot of levels, there's so much metaphor in all of that, especially since there I cannot unsee the first thing I heard about flags was Laura talking about them as my consciousness, as pulling it up in the mind's eye, seeing that flag in the landscape of my mind's eye, recognizing that flag as my consciousness, and then going out and taking that and pulling it into my heart. That was the first thing about flags for this cycle right now that came to my awareness. And in that, also a discussion of paying particular attention to synchronicities about things. And now all this about flags since then. That's that's a lot of
So
synchronicity.
take what, not only that, but listen to what you just said again. So the flag is representation of the consciousness, and Laura was talking about you taking it into you, but they have it out there. They're taking your consciousness from you because you weren't right. Listen to Lisa, because you weren't paying any damn attention to it. So they've got it, and they're doing flag signals with it, and they have now captured your
Your
consciousness.
flag.
That's right. They captured. That's right. That's exactly right. In the game, captured your flag. So all of this is, it is the delicious cosmic irony and really another example of the just beautiful intricacy of the complex nature that's unfolding to show us all, to wake us all up, and everybody's at different stages, right? To fully embed it, to fully sink it in, to grok it to the the nth degree, so that, because we will never ever do this again, because in whatever game as creator beings we're out playing, we will never ever need to do this, nor will it be set, it's now set forth not to ever go in this direction again.
I'm all for that.
So it's got to be right within every fiber, every molecule, every thread, every effervescence of your frequency signal and everyone else's. And it's not just on this planet. It's in all of Source's multiverse.
I'm catching up with what's being said in the
Okay. Do you want
chat.
to do with that, or do you want me to show the other things that I have?
Well, no, you go ahead. I'm just catching up. Teresa was sharing about what she was seeing in the streets of DC from the fellow at Epoch Times was walking down there. Red Green Castle, anyhow, said, I think that's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
So a couple of, go ahead.
Well, Teresa offers that everything is out of the Color Revolutions playbook, which is absolutely so.
Yeah.
And if you're just tuning in and you've never heard of Color Revolutions, go do a little research on that, and you will find that. And that's the other thing, in all of this, as you learn what a color revolution is, don't forget that the United States has been doing that in other countries for a very long time, I'm sad to say.
Yes, so Brennan and the rest
So
of the
now it's
masters
being
at
done
it.
here. Say what, BZ?
Brennan and the rest of them are masters at it, and that's the whole Dominion thing. That's why there is that tie. They created it to go do it over there, except that they've been doing it because they created it to do it over here. If you think for one moment that this was the first time that the election was done this way, it's been all the way through.
No, that's right.
They already had it running in Hillary's thing, except that they weren't prepared for the wild card and the overwhelming support he got back then.
Yeah, they thought it was a joke too. They didn't think that he would get as much support as he did get. That's the thing. I honestly, I always felt like it was a surprise to Hillary.
Yeah.
That was my
But
take.
that's another blending of the linear and the multidimensional. That's another blending that clearly shows you, right? Because we weren't, what you're seeing right now with Biden, and he's not even president yet, right? All the leading up, all the moves, all of the things, all the people who are going to be kicked out and your rights, that's all the info. We were already there. We weren't going to get there. We were already there. And because we were already there, we've come back from that because we have it all in the bag. We've got it all wrapped up. And now that's the next part of that all coming, to the full for everybody to see. But it's really important. You can't just say, well, this could have happened. You've got to see it actually. You've got to, like everybody who knows what's going on, going, oh my God, we got 10 hours, we got 5 hours. Look what he's doing, you know? I mean, and there are moments when I have to think, well, it's a really good thing I have a deep knowing what's going on, because a lot of things that I've seen and seen talked about in just the stuff that I've been part of and doing things, you know, I mean, I've always had a target on my back, and sometimes it's been pushed, but this time it would absolutely be pushed completely. So I look at that and I go, well, yeah, that jig would be up. My jig would be up. And I know lots of people like that. Not the least of which, as I said, is President Trump and his whole family, his grandkids. And because you start with them. You start with them because they're good theater, your own entertainment as you do it to them, and forcing others to watch. So make no mistake, there's a couple of things I think is really important to that you are the expert for you. You have your own knowing, and you know all the plans of what's going on if you only tune into your own telemetry. Woo-woo, such as you want to call it, that is an absolute real thing, and it is incredibly powerful, and it's not good or bad. It's how it's wielded and the intention that's held when it's wielded. And it is, you know, and since we're all here on this planet at this time for these things, we're all masters at it. Some of us, you know, and are remembering how to do that, and some of us haven't remembered yet. And the other thing is that the because it includes all the depth and the breadth and the exquisite beauty of all of it. So the very dark in all of the levels and layers, and all of the nuance in it, and the complexity, and I mean, and all of the light layers, right? There is, and I was talking to somebody on the phone today, and they said, you know, you said that a number of years ago about the beauty and complexness of all of this, the dark, and how if you start to look at it, you can see how it's just masterfully done. And I chuckled and I said, yeah, you were thinking, okay, I'm not talking to you anymore because you're nuts. And she said, I see it now. I see it. And when you do, then you've unwound and unbound it all and bring it together. Because you can't lop off part of it, because then you're not only not holding, but you're complete, you're half. So that's the big theater. That's talk about how do you tell, right? All of the souls, all of the planet, all of the multiple planets, all of the multiverses, right? All of sources, everything. How do you tell them that? Because that's the
Well,
thing.
that's just it. But I honestly, for me, I I don't know. It is my if I hadn't had some of the experiences that I've had, I don't know how I would have grokked multidimensionality and the truth of who we are. And I I really don't I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the things that have shown up to help me grok all of that. And I really feel like there's a lot more to come, because there's, you know, because I was able to open myself up to the truth of that, that small, teeny tiny little portion. And so you know, I'm open to seeing more, you know, because I know that there is more, there's lots more, there's way more. And
Well, and that's what I've been talking about for a long time with the, you know, the metaphor of above and below the fold. So you've got all this stuff, and we're working our way up to the top of below the fold, right? We're you know, in a little bit here, once we get this piece sorted out, then we're going to go full throttle into the financial slavery system. And whoa, that goes breadth of depth, right? But then you
Right.
get above the fold, and now you're talking about what we were just talking about. And as I've said for a long time, that's going to be the hardest part. So in theory, that's the good stuff, right? And all this is the bad, down below the fold is the bad stuff or the dark stuff, or whatever. And you're thinking, well, the good stuff's a piece of cake. Because it will bring you to your knees. Because when you realize and embody the fullness of that, it is astonishingly beautiful, and the reverence that you feel from it and with it and within you, encompassing all of that, it is cosmically delicious. But to get to there from hanging out below the fold is a jump,
Yeah.
and it will bring you to your knees many a time in making that jump. But that's all part of what we're doing. And and beings, you talked about, the experiences to grok all of that, and that multidimension and all that. Every people who are playing in this conversation now are doing that in different levels, and they will accelerate more and more. And then they're helping the others who are just figuring this out at the very tiniest whiff of it, right? And that's how it goes through. And then there will be moments where it doesn't take any time at all, because time doesn't exist. It will just be in that field. The coherence will ring like, hitting a glass, and that vibration will sync up. What was the name of that movie? It was a is it Joe or something? It's an ET movie, and their guys go in there in a little motor home, and they're driving around, and this alien, they find this alien, he comes with them, he's a gray, right? And Jimmy showed it's, and they're on a, was it Comic-Con or something? It's the comic book / graphic novel big things out in Vegas, and they go through, and anyways, they meet this guy along the way who happens to be a gray alien, and he comes, I know you've seen it. I think he's called Joe, so I think that's what it's called.
Oh, yeah. And I haven't, I think I know the movie you're referring to. I don't remember the name of it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't
No, I
remember
don't
it,
see it now.
But
but
the reason that
but
I was bringing it forward is that this got this woman who's fits into, she's kind of onto them that they're trying to do something they're not supposed to be doing, but she's a born again Bible, to played up to the nth, right? And her vision doesn't work. She's got Coke bottle glasses out to here, and this whole 9 yard, and at one point, I'm just calling jokes, I think that's what it is. She's going on this whole thing about, he's an alien, and that's not the Lord's thing, and all this kind of stuff, which you're going to see happening here, right? Okay. And he's like, okay, could you just get over yourself? And he goes like this with his palm, and she goes, right? And she's in this whole galactic wormhole of traveling, which is, it's remembering, right? It's all of her coming into her. And the other Comic-Con guys, that they're like, what'd you do to her? He said, I didn't do anything. I just gave her memories back. which means he, blew her mind, right? And so she comes to, and she had the Coke bottle glasses, and they're off, and her hair is all askew, and it's a silly movie, but it proves a great point. It's a metaphor, and she can remember everything. And so she's having that juxtaposition, that cognitive dissonance between what a moment ago was absolute, to use the phrase, God's word, right? In from the linear thing. And now she had Source's word. And she was, and
yeah.
just that scene is a great, you could probably Google or YouTube Google that scene, just that description of that scene in that movie, and you'll get it. I'll see if I can find it, right? And that's what I'm talking about the above the fold and what is coming there in the totality of it. So if you think you can see in color now, you barely can see in a monochrome black compared to what you will see. Literally, and figuratively, right? If you think you can feel now, sometimes it feels like there's a little spider or something crawling, you look and there's nothing there, that's in different layers of view levels. So if you think you can do that, nothing compared to if you think you have a creative idea, or you can use your imagination about something or fantasize about something or whatever it is, don't even have a whiff of it to what you can do. And when that comes into you, so if you haven't seen color and all of a sudden you look at a green that is, and the shades and the richness and the hue and the texture of the vibration of that color as it comes into you will bring you to your knees, because you realize that color just isn't a color like green, or the grass is green, right? It's alive and it is palpable, and it's speaking to you and connecting with you and communicating with you. And the multiverses that are opened up in just that moment when you look, see, feel, connect with, are one and come into subject to one another in that moment, it will bring you to your knees. And then you look a little to another direction, then there's another color or a sound. If you think you've heard beautiful music or a beautiful sound, or the wind whispering through the trees or something, and what that evokes to you in emotion or a memory, or just that sublime moment that captures, right? That energetic envelope. You've seen and experienced none of that. So that's what I'm talking about. That will be occurring and is already occurring above the fold. But that'll be wholesale on not only on this planet, but on all sorts.
It feels like very, very, very shamanic like energy, what you're sharing there. That's what I kept getting from what you were sharing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's kind of like living in HD, where but it's actually, that's not a good, because that's kind of, that doesn't have the soul to it. It doesn't have the,
Well, the amplitude of what a lot of folks are holding in their field, just the, just like I'm trying to hold open for the highest truth to be revealed for me, to me, for me, right? That's what I'm holding space for around me.
mm-hmm.
And so I that's what I don't know. It's gone. Whatever I meant to say about that is now completely gone.
Do you want me to show some of those pictures in the other?
Yes, I thought you were going to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was waiting. You said people were saying things that we were going to look at that.
No.
Okay. So let me see if I can figure out some order to do them. How do I let you hear the video sound?
Anytime you're sharing the screen, you just click on the
I
share.
got that, but I don't want to hear it duplicated.
Oh, if you have any other instances of us anywhere, you
No,
need.
but how do we avoid what I did by mistake earlier today?
Oh, well,
We all go on mute and then just let hear the screen sound?
I'm not sure how. Did you only have one thing open on your one instance of us open? Yeah. I'm not
See,
sure
and
what
there
happened.
wasn't any video. I forgot what it was I was showing, but whatever I was showing didn't have any video. I just clicked that button because before I was trying to show video with sound and I couldn't get it to work.
Ah, I
So
see.
maybe it
I'm
picked up
happy to
on
mute
you.
my microphone, but I don't think that's what caused it, but
Well, let's try.
okay.
Okay. So the first one we're going to do, let's go that. We'll go do that. First one, we'll go to the video. I'm going to say this before I click the button because I'm nervous of screwing it up again. The first one, we're going to go to the video. It's in California coast and all the ships off the coast.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
This is absolutely unreal. So many ships out there. Look it. I'm just going to try to give you a view here. This is unreal to me. Look it. All the way down the California coast. I'm by Long Beach, but I have a feeling these ships go all the way up through LA. This is unreal. This is absolutely unreal. So many ships out there. Look it. I'm just going to try to give you a view here.
So they're all different kinds of ships. Actually, that's just happens to shoot it. You've got ships below the water. So you've got some amphibious ships, but you've also got some freighters, cargo freighters. You've got, that one's a cargo freighter, obviously some little sailboats, but you've got more military type groups. So she's looking at that. So when I first saw that, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. When I first saw that, I thought, huh, that's interesting. And so my thought was to then pull the video down so I can put it in my editing software and I could isolate the things, and then I could pull out each in the different ships and then look up what kind of ships I'm looking at, because I don't know ships from nothing, right? You know, they're on the water and hopefully they float. But before I started doing that, I then looked at some of the other things that people were saying, right? And one of the things is on the same, down in her feed and some other places I was looking around that, they're saying, oh, well, that's just the ports are being slowed down. And so one person was talking about how the ports are slowing because it brought up a news article that the ports are slowing down and offloading the stuff because it's the COVID thing. And okay, well, all right, that's a data point. Then in another article I found, someone was saying, well, that's because with the Chinese New Year holiday, the Chinese are sending a super amount of freight over this way so that we get it before, you know, because the shelves, you know, in a lot of places that mostly sell Chinese things, right, that they're running out of stuff, right, because of the whole CCP and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then my brain said, right, and who owns the ports in this country? And that would be a 3-letter organization, which is the CCP. So if you're owning ports and you want camouflage, so then I found this. Let me go here. Then I found this as I was researching. Whoops. And it's, what did you say it was called, Sheila? The Transformers?
Oh, yeah. Well, you were talking about, yeah.
Not an electron, but like a Lego type transformer where it's a phone and then you
Like
flip this
Optimus
thing back
Prime.
and
Yes, Optimus
right.
Prime type of transformer.
So
If you say Optimus Prime, everybody knows what that is.
okay, so then I found this, and this, you can see that, right? Okay, and
Yeah.
this is PLA, which is the People's Liberation Army. It's a Chinese military grade thing. It's a rocket launcher and missile launcher,
Mhm.
and it's a cargo container. That's so it masquerades as a cargo container until they want to raise it up and fire it. Okay. So who owns the ports? And you could say, well, maybe this woman was thinking it's a watch the water sort of a thing. That's what somebody's comment was, because no, that's not, it's not good US ships. It's just backed up cargo because they can't offload on the ports. So like I said, my brain said, well, who owns the ports? Okay. And isn't that interesting that they've just developed this new piece of technology that's a cargo container? And what are sitting in the water waiting to offload with all this cargo containers on them that they can't get out of the ports? Who owns the ports? Right? And where is this? This is all along the California coast. And what runs down in a fault line along the California coast? And if you're going to have one of those green things that's going to lob stuff on because it can't get to the ports, because who owns the ports? Anyways, just some dots. So I thought, well, that's interesting. And this woman, the other thing is that this woman, she talks, you heard her own voice. She lives right there and she's never seen anything like it. So this is just, she just took the video. So then there another dot. Let me put this back here. You were talking about the emergency. I think we were talking about a little bit online about the emergency system, right? And with the, because you said your phone went on automatically updated even though you didn't want it to, right?
Yeah, that was the thing. I had heard about that whole thing, that there was going to be an update, and I went in and told my phone not to update, that I would tell it when to update. And what I discovered is that it updates anyway. It updates anyway, whether I want it to or not. It updates anyway.
Yeah. Well,
So,
mine on an iPhone, I told it not to, and I got another notification of another way to. There's another, the first setting, and I thought would have done it, but you have to do it another way too, because they want to, they overroute it, right? So I did the best. So now it keeps telling me, hey, and I got, notification badges all over the place, and and you have to be careful when you touch the screen, because if you don't see the thing and you hit it, then it's going to update it. But it's trying to, it can't do it itself. It's trying to get me to do it. But anyways, I wanted to bring this out, which is why this was put out a bunch of different ways, and it's important for people to know too, because a lot of people think, oh no, well, how do I find this information, or if my phone got updated, because a lot of people's phones got updated. And that brings us to this, and think of all the things in his leaving speech and all that kind of stuff. He talks about the military, talks about, and how many times have you heard, it's a kind of a stump speech thing about the cupboards were bare and there was no bullets, and now we have, beyond built up, and all the military that you never even knew existed on the planet, because it comes from off planet, right? So one of those things that they've put into place and they've fully equipped and outlined is the giant voice and military mass notification systems. And so that's and there was in one of Trump's short speeches, I think it was one that was 4 minutes or something, around in the time after the 6, or right after the 6, where about, calm everybody down. And he's talking about when he got removed from Twitter and they were wholesale, kicking people off all over the place. And if you go back and you listen to that, he's talking about that they're developing other, the wording is and the tense of the wording is particularly intentionally vague, so you can't really pin down, is it today or yesterday sort of a thing. But he's talking about the new platforms, and this is one of the new platforms that he's talking about. He's also talking about a whole television system within, it's kind of like the White House television systems, but it's a much more robust thing, which you'll see roll out here when he wants to start to have that communication. So anyways, that's one of the things there. So that's just a little piece to know that there is more technology and ability for you to get that information through one of those. And then another dot I wanted to show you was, so
Now wait a minute. Is that a whole standalone system, the giant voice thing? Because
yes. And he said in one of, that's the other thing, and he said in one of his very first thing, in the green screen one, where he's in the rose garden area, where it's quiet as a church mouse, even though there's 500 to 1 million people in town, whether they're the greatest riot since they're just milling around, that many people breathing makes noise, right? And he said, you will have a loud voice. You won't be silenced, and you will have a loud voice. And oh, that's the thing. We did part of a decode on this. And he's talking about is beginning to address the violence. And then he ends with, our incredible journey is only just beginning. And in there, he's talking about, you will have a loud voice. And this thing is called
giant voice.
Giant Voice.
Ah.
Okay. It just happened to be named that. Right? Giant Voice is kind of a stupid name for a. Anyways, they're all over the place. So another one is them. So you okay? Yeah, let's try not to. You okay?
Ah. Teresa offers that the alien's name was Paul. Thank
Paul.
you for that, Teresa. Yes.
Yeah. You okay?
Oh, you know what, BZ? They're having trouble hearing you. So you need to speak up or turn your microphone up or
Is that better?
something. Yep.
Yeah, well, a minute ago I walked across the room, so that's what. It's not a very big room.
but you know, you know how it is. I have trouble hearing you a lot anyway too. So
Are we back to that again? I thought we fixed that.
well.
So now, as far as, so go back to your original question, right? Well,
Okay.
what? I mean, he's given his farewell speech, and what? You know,
Right. So
this
now
other guy's
what?
coming in. We got flags all over the place, 35,000 troops, and what? Right? So we've addressed a lot of that already. So now, so you start looking for drops, and yes, eventually it will come through on your television set. It just won't be reported by MSM and the rest of them because they won't exist anymore. They will have been removed permanently. And that's already coming by, oh, do I have that? I don't know if I sent that to myself. Let's see here. I don't know. I don't want to take the time. I guess I sent it to myself, but it's not on this device. So, oh, I do have it. So now information drops are starting to come that where there's data, where there's proof, where evidence is coming out, where all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. A friend of mine.
Evidence everywhere.
Huh?
I said there's evidence everywhere.
Right. So a friend of mine sent me something that she had a friend of hers, you know, they talk. I just sent her. This was yesterday. She sent it to me at 11:05 in the morning. And I thought it was interesting because like I said, I grew up in television, so it sounded right. And I have published two of the newest FCC documents where they're reiterating that to everybody, radio, television, the whole 9 yards, it's in your contract. You must put on this information. It's not an option. You must, and the ramifications are you lose your license. It's pulled permanently unless it's deemed to ever give back to you. So you can see those on the IUV. Those are already there. So why would they put those out? You know, we hear about the scuttlebutt about the emergency broadcast system. We hear the scuttlebutt about announcements. We hear the scuttlebutt, right? So then why is the FCC, which is a linear organization right there, right? Which is
Right.
not a Republican Democrat thing and probably is mostly until he made a few changes in appointments to swing it to the right thing. So there's some external evidence for you. Again, linear logical evidence right there. And not
Yeah.
just one, they had a new one and they're both up on the IUV, so you can see those. So then this friend sent this to me and said, well, this person sent this along and so this was yesterday morning, just sent it to her. I work at a mid-sized TV station. We just had a visit from the FCC along with two people with badges. I didn't get close enough to see what agency they were with. We've been told to prepare for all of our programming to be preempted from 8 a.m. Wednesday for up to 72 hours. They told my boss he can be held criminally liable if he doesn't allow their feed to air. He was almost in tears, saying, I've never seen anything like this after 30 years in business. They scared the shit out of him and the district manager. So, like I said, talking about the networks, you have different distribution ranges. Like, so if you want to be an anchor and you want to get different spots, you have to hop around the country to raise up to higher platform networks. It's more money, more coverage, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I read that and I thought, from just feeling into it, looking at it, and the sources sent it to me, I thought, well, that makes sense, especially since I'd already gone and found the FCC things. So then early this morning, I think it was, or late last night, I happened to be listening to, I think it was a Charlie Ward and Simon or something. And he says, well, I got something very interesting. This got sent to me by, a contact of the researcher that he knows. And he read out the thing that was on my phone. And I thought, well, there's a dot reconnecting with itself. So, so I thought that was interesting. So anyways, these dots are all over the place. And the next one I wanted to bring up is, so you could say, well, how do you know some of these things are real? And how can you trust the sources? And part of it goes back to you're the expert for you. And then you blend that with, do you know where it's coming from? And do you trust that? And have you had a relationship in the trust? And, and how do you read the energy of the person who's giving that? So again, go back to you're the expert you. And look at that, blending the linear and the multidimensional, because you cannot have, this won't work without one without the other. Right?
No, that's true.
So then we'll just go to pure linear logic. So if you put out information that's being categorized and claiming to be and purported to be, and in an accusatory way that's incredibly damning and incredibly defamatory and incredibly libel, right? And if you're the top lawyer, brilliant, known as in the lawyer field, right, as not only a brilliant lawyer, but the top winning lawyer, right? And your specialty is defamation, right? Then that's a pretty good bet that when something comes out and is put out, that the guy knows the ropes of what he's talking about, because he's already won against the mainstream media with the Sandman case and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm talking about Lynn Wood. So Lynn Wood today puts out, and I'll put this up, you can see it. And I've listened to the videos. The video's up there now on the IUV, so you can You can have a look at it. And oh yeah, I gotta share the screen here. And so these are actually Linwood's tweets when he's describing this. And what he's describing, and you can go read that for yourself, but what he's describing is that he releases whistleblower videos on Justice Roberts, Pence, and Scalia. And then you can see, and so I downloaded the different videos and put them together, and that's it's the thing. Now this isn't complete. This is the files are just snippets. They go together, but what I'm saying is the deposition being taken from this person, there's stuff before the whole thing altogether clip starts. So there's a lot of conversations, there's a lot of testimony, there's a lot of deposition being taken, right? Before this, and then he starts with this part because this particular whistleblower was in the place where they were privy to a lot of these things. Okay. And when you get to the end of this particular run, you realize that again, it's confirmed. If you hadn't already, gone, oh wait, this is more of a deposition, because he finishes on the thread, which has to do with Pence and Scalia and Roberts, right? And then goes into the next part. So you hear a little bit about Dominion because he's going in there, which made the light bulb go on. Well, this is one of the reasons that Lynn has it, because in all the research that they were doing for all the voter fraud and it's not even really voter fraud, it's the voter official fraud, right? These were people
Right.
coming forward and the information data that they gathered from all of that. So they're all, as everything else is, they're all tied together. And in the last 3 seconds of this clip, you can start to get confirmation of that. And that's one of the reasons it has it. So anyways, he's dropped this now. What is so think about the timing. There are no such things as coincidence. He drops it early this morning, and he knows everybody will post it all over because it's what he's hoping to do, and it gets out. And go listen to it for yourself. But what's happening is it's describing how John Roberts, where he got his 2 adopted children, why he got them, what he uses them for, and what is the currency to get him to where he is. And then it talks about this whistleblower was involved in, and he went and he was in the position to hear this plot of when Hillary, that was the plan, when she got within her first term in office as president, and people are going, well, wait a minute, she wasn't ever president. So that's already in there. And he blew the whistle on it. He actually made the mistake, however, of going to the FBI to tell them what he heard. Here was a plan to whack judges, federal judges and Supreme Court judges that she wanted out of her way so that she could then get the pick. So he made the mistake of going to basically, which is the arm of the enforcement arm of the financial slavery system.
Right.
So then he goes on to tell more about that, and he in saying that they had to stop because the original plan was to do some judges in Massachusetts and some other things, and there was too much out. And then so Scalia knew about this because this whistleblower briefed him on what he knew. He's telling you all this, right? So Scalia goes and he brings it, figured, well, if the FBI was dirty, we better bring it to the top. And so he brings it to the president of the United States. And who was the president of the United States back then, before the election had decided who the next president was going to be between Hillary and Trump? And 5 days later, Scalia had gotten invited to go out to the ranch and he died. So then go back to connecting dots. Remember long ago, it's not that long ago, but it seems like long ago, when you have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States dies in an unattended death, suspicious death, there's no autopsy done. They cremated the body instantaneously, and there are no eyewitnesses, and they did no investigation, right? Okay, that wasn't dots enough, right? Then you have the president of the United States, which is the office, not just the particular numbered president and their whole entity that sits there, right? It's the office. So the office will go and do these things because that's the president of the United States, correct? But didn't go to the funeral of the Chief Justice of the United States of America. Have you known, I mean, you've known a lot of justices have died. Have you ever known that to ever happen before?
Not to
And
my
when it
knowledge.
was happening, I thought, well, why does nobody else think that's strange? Why is
I wasn't paying attention back then myself, so
why is
unfortunately.
nobody noticing? You know, I mean, that wasn't the top of my mind either today, but I just heard and I thought, well, it seems really strange to me. So again, all of these things are all connected. You can go listen to some of that, and perhaps he'll drop more. And if he does, then I'll put that up as well. So we have a number of people, you know, hopefully all over the planet who are putting it up. So if they take one down, at least there's another one to take to get out there. So why did that come out? Why did Lynn Wood drop that today? Right. So this is all going back to your great setup question, Sheila. What now? What's coming next? You have 35,000 troops, armed troops. You have the general who's said what he says on tape right there, mask or not. You can see him there. You can go look up his bio. You can compare the stats in the bio to the thing, right? You have a fence that's built in perimeter, a high fence for people who don't like fences and they don't work anyways. And why waste the money? And oh, they're going to tear the one around this country, around the country down post haste. But this one they got, and the closure mechanism to seal the thing fence is on the outside of the fence where the not good people are. And the wire part, the razor, so the razor blades are about this big all the way through, right, is on the inside of the fence where the good people are, right? And then you have all the ships along the coast. So there's if you believe in coincidences, okay, well, there's a lot of coincidences all over the place. And why now? And why are they all popping now? And Lynn Wood isn't just a lawyer who's good at what he does and all that kind of stuff and can prove defamation. So he knows, right? I mean, he could be libeled in an instant, but no one will come after him because, first of all, they can't, because he knows how to do it, because he wouldn't put anything out that's not correct. But he also had, why did he come forward where Trump in the last, you know, right around the election asked him to come and work and give his expertise. So he, by association, he was saying, I vetted this guy. I've asked him. He didn't raise his hand and say, hey, let me help you with that so I can, you know, cook the books or any of that kind of stuff. And then there was optics that separated. So all of this is to say that each person has to feel in their heart where we are, what's going on, what's unfolding. And if you're good at that or don't think you're good at it, wherever you are in that, then add the linear to it, add the tangible, add the touchable to it, and the fantastical, and the synchronicity, right? And because, why? Because we're multidimensional. And all of those things are equally weighted in the role that they play. It just is.
I keep going in and out. I think I'm needed in a meeting somewhere. I think one time I almost fell asleep. This is so very interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm really tired too. I'm feeling it.
Well, I mean, I know it's almost 11 o'clock here on the East Coast, but I love our conversation, but I want to be, and I'm very present, but I've caught myself a couple of times
Let's
Well,
close it up.
tried to. Well, I think I'm gonna have to. I listen. I love you guys. I haven't, and when I tried to tune into what's being said over here, I lost track over here. It's. I feel very yeah. Things feel so very fluid. I can't follow. I can't. It's very tough for me to follow more than one thing at a time.
And right
So,
now we're in the moments where there isn't one thing at a time.
no, I
I don't
know,
mean just
right?
here, I just mean all over, right?
No,
Being
that's
called
true.
to meetings from where you are or anything else.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing I do. I honestly that I feel I've not had sleep try to overtake me like I have recently. This is very interesting to me the way that it happens.
Well, that's why I call it the sleepy train. It's coming in and you can say, no, I'm busy right now. And you just get yanked by this shirt sleeve.
Yep.
We
Yep.
don't care. We need you in this meeting now. Get your ass on the train. And
No, that's exactly what happens, man. I'm telling you. So I really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out for this one. I guess the biggest thing that I take from all of our conversations, for me anyway, is to I'm just figuring out who I am, and I'm figuring out the truth of who I am, and I'm staying in as much of a center as I can muster in those moments, because I really do think we all got this
we do.
on all sorts of levels,
We absolutely do.
even when we think we don't. We really do. So make sure you're registered, you're subscribed, you like, you share, whatever, all the way around on both channels. And
All the
you know,
usual things in all the usual places.
yes,
Do
and
that.
I will go back and make sure that there are links to the IUV in my video. And till next time, guys. Mwah.
Much love, everyone.
Right.
Playing.